Hey.
Millie, your sunglasses are so dark.
Welcome to our end of year live stream. We're trying to have a little fun today. So put on a prop, hat, accessory, and join us. My name is Millie Harmon. I'm the outreach coordinator for Move to Amend. We are trying something new today and holding our first ever end of year live stream. This year has certainly offered us many challenges, or we could call them opportunities to rise to the occasion. One reason I really have come to appreciate this organization is our ability to look ahead, plan, strategize, and adapt. From its inception, Move to Amend has looked at the big picture and mobilized with that in mind. And as all organizing has had to do, we have had to adapt in 2020 quickly. A lot of our folks didn't even know what Zoom is, and now they're using it 18 times a day. The way we hold events and do outreach, raise money continues to evolve. So thank you for joining us today to do just that. We want to talk over the next hour or so to introduce ourselves as the national team, give you an inside peek into our work, why Move to Amend is important to each of us, our role within the coalition, and to meet our end-of-year fundraising goals. We have raised $15,016.75 of our $25,000 year-end goal. And I'm very excited to say that any donation made right now will be matched up to $10,000. This donation match was provided by the Program on Corporations, Law, and Democracy, an organization whose contributions laid the groundwork for understanding the corporate hijacking of democracy in so many ways. Another added bonus to making a donation right now within our live stream is that every person who donates will enter a raffle drawing for a Move to Amend water bottle or t-shirt, which we will announce at the very end. I will now turn it over to our fabulous, fearless National Director, Caitlin Saposi-Belknap, to give us some background on Move to Amend and introduce herself.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Feel free to tell us that you're here. I think we should be able to see the comments as they come in, no matter which channel you're using. So say hello and where you're tuning in from. And if you're already involved in Move to Amend in some way, then let us know and we can put it up on the screen like that. So my name is Caitlin. I'm in Sacramento, California, which is where I live. And I'm excited to be here because I haven't actually been here since May. I was with my family in both New Mexico and Arizona to help with some major health things that my mom had happen this year. So I'm excited to be home now, finally. Millie asked me to talk a little bit about some history of Move to Amend for folks who don't know, because our story is kind of unique and I think pretty cool and gives a good sense of kind of who we are and where we come from in doing this work. And spoiler, who we are is regular people. That's kind of the final conclusion. But Move to Amend was started actually before Citizens United happened. So most people know of us from the Citizens United case, which was where the Supreme Court in 2010 kind of doubled down on a long-standing precedent that they invented, that corporations have constitutional rights, and also that money is speech and protected by the First Amendment. So therefore, that was really what the crux of Citizens United was about. It was overturning law passed by Congress years before that limited the amount of spending that individuals and organizations could contribute to elections. But we really are not a campaign finance group. even though Citizens United was sort of our entry as Move to Amend into the world, and as Millie mentioned, we are and have been a coalition, because when we formed, we were basically all the people who were loosely connected through relatively small grassroots organizations, for the most part, from across the country that had been working against corporate personhood, or this idea that corporations have constitutional rights, for going on 10 to 15 years at the time of Citizens United. And we saw Citizens United as an opportunity to make clear to people what it means when corporations have constitutional rights. So we were just in a living room for a strategy retreat over the weekend. We all just kind of bunked up in a house. And that was the first of many such gatherings like that. We have tried to do that at least once a year since we formed. And this year we weren't able to do that in person, but we did it on Zoom. And actually we have another session happening on New Year's Day because that's kind of how actually not New Year's Day, the day after, but New Year's weekend. So, that gives you a sense of how dedicated and committed we are to this. The fact of the matter is, most of us who you're seeing here at some point or another, maybe not so much this year, have been paid by Move to Amend as staff. But the reality is we would be doing this whether we were getting paid or not. And the pay makes it possible for us not to have other jobs that compete with our ability to focus on Move to Amend. But none of us are doing this because it is, some sort of career stepladder gathering up for us, or some way to, even really do much more than pay the rent. So that's one piece of kind of what happened for us this year, is that we had to lay off all of our staff for a time. And we're in the process of bringing people back on. But between, the presidential campaign, which frankly has been going on since 2016, on into, what we have seen with economic really collapse and free fall for a lot of people in this country, Move to Amend, it has been harder and harder for us to fundraise and make our basic budget. So our staff collectively decided that we would be laid off, and we have continued to work through this year, pretty much just about as much as we normally do. Because we couldn't let up and slow things down. So there's a lot more that I could say, obviously, but now there's more and more people joining us. And, I want to turn it over to Greg to talk about how, even though this has been a really hard year with some, financial challenges, as well as challenges to our ability to organize the way that we have always done, a lot of what we do is travel the country and spread the word and help people connect with the local issues happening in their community that are as a result of corporate rule, and why passing the We the People Amendment would make all the difference in terms of our fights. And we weren't able to do that this year, and a bunch of other things that didn't go as planned, and we just rolled with it. But we still had a number of successes. So I'm going to turn it over to Greg, our outreach director, to talk about that.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you all for taking the time to be with us this afternoon, or I guess it is afternoon, regardless of what part of the country or hemisphere you may be on. I am the outreach director, and before I begin, just wanted to say something about my prop. As you can see, it's a little bandana, a little creative, yin and yang, and I picked it up actually when my daughter and I just decided on the spur of the moment to go camping, and we decided to go out to South Dakota to the Badlands. Which, if you've not been there, you need to go. Beautiful national park area in that part of the world. And we noticed while there were all of these bikers. And it turned out that was the very weekend, if you know anything about sort of the biking culture, of what's called Sturgis, a giant rally of bikers that come literally from all over the country. And they just rally and they commiserate and trade barbs and sell and buy stuff and just communicate and the like. And what was so interesting about that experience is that, we tend to think stereotypically of bikers being of a certain culture or a certain political persuasion, certain income level and the like. And all of that by by connecting to people there and communicating and camping together and then going to visit various natural, wonders, we got to meet people and realize that they were across the board economically, politically, and the like. And I think it's very important a takeaway in that, what it is we're trying to do at Move to Amend is build a wide and deep social movement, a democracy movement that is not just bipartisan, but transpartisan, that goes beyond any political reality or political party or politician, because that's the only way to build power that's going to succeed. And toward that end, I think it's important that we approach people with an open mind and try to, as best we can, work at trying to help people get on the other side of the learning curve. And toward that end, one of our fundamental missions has been from day one, among many, to achieve what we believe is essential, and that is political independence. By political independence, we mean to help ascertain the information we need that is not connected to any one ideology, to any particular government, to any particular dominant culture that, the winners always write the history, correct? It's always been that way. And so it's very important that by being politically independent, by working toward what it is we feel is important, we do so without strings, without nooses, without any other levers that oftentimes comes, sadly, with money. We tend, though it's not a major part of what we do, but is it not part of our We the People amendment, to try to reverse Citizens United, try to reverse this whole bizarre constitutional construct of money being defined as free speech? Well, why is it that we think that is so problematic? That people who get a lot of money have sort of concerns that don't really, that we find that of concern. Well, the reason for it is that a lot of that money, now it's somewhat changed with some people, but in general, those candidates that get a lot of money have gotten those sums from a small number of people, right? Or a small number of entities. And we attribute that, do we not, with certain problems. That if you are receiving a lot of money from a certain small number of entities or individuals, then there is the fear of you are going to be influenced disproportionately, right? That you are going to be more beholden to your funders as opposed to your voters or to your citizens, to your constituents, whoever that may be. And so we think, right, that's a problem. But is that not the same problem? Is that not potentially of the same concern in the nonprofit world, where you have organizations that may be getting the vast majority or a decent chunk of their change coming from a small number, very small number of either entities, well-to-do individuals, or artificial entities, foundations, corporations, maybe the government, maybe political parties, maybe whoever, billionaires or millionaires. And so to be politically independent, we believe and have believed it's absolutely essential. And in fact, it goes hand in hand with being economically independent. And the equivalent of the politicians who are dependent is that we want, right, politicians to be more beholden to their voters, to not just, their interests, but also dependent somewhat financially. And so that has given rise, has it not, over the last couple of election cycles, where you have candidates who we feel, relatively speaking, that they, again, relatively speaking, seem to be more listening to people when they are getting money from large numbers of people in small contributions. So they're not beholden to a small number of individuals, but to their wide constituents. And that is what Move to Amend has been all about. By design, we believe that to be politically independent, you've got to be economically dependent, and therefore we're not beholden to the corporations, to the foundations, to the political parties, to the millionaires or billionaires but are accountable and responsible, we believe, at least we're trying to be, to our supporters, to the constituents who we are trying to represent by doing this work hand in hand with all of them, with all of you. So that's how we've, good or bad, sink or swim, that's kind of how we've designed how we are going to have this organization proceed, to do it independently, to do it with all of you. And by doing so, we can focus on what we think, because we're listening, because we're more accountable and responsible to our supporters, what we think needs to happen. And if that means it's work that is more on the edge, that is going against the grain, that is ruffling political economic feathers at those at the top economically or politically, well, we know we're doing the right thing, because we cannot continue to operate status quo. We need something that is both broad and deep, that is fundamentally calling for change. And that is what the Move to Amend mission has been from day one. So here we are. We've been at this for quite some time. And so, yes, we are trying to be and will continue to be politically independent, but that can only continue to the extent that we are economically independent from the big guys, from the big entities out there. And so that means we need to really rely on the support, both volunteer, both in terms of time, energy, and resources, from the wonderful people in the thousands, if not tens of thousands, people out there just like you. So, we're willing to engage and continue to engage in conversation, and we're going to do a little of that a little bit later. Pass.
Wonderful. Greg, thank you so much. Again, underline it. We're grassroots funded. We are grassroots driven. Our average contribution is only $40. That says a lot with how much we get done. And we are scrappy, so we do amazing things with every single dollar. Also to say, if you're just joining, we're about $15,000 into our $25,000 year-end goal. I do want to get a little personal here and introduce some of our staff that may have to pop off. Get a little personal edge, why we join, what we love about it, why we do it. Jessica Munger, our programs director. Can you tell us a little bit why you moved to Amend?
Yeah, of course. Hey, good to see everybody. Thanks for dressing up a little bit. We like to wear props sometimes on our calls, so we thought you might like it too. So I'm Jessica Munger. You, she, her pronouns. I live here in Las Vegas, Nevada. I am originally from Northern California. I've been with Move to Amend, I get 6.5 something years now, and have really seen over that time so many things happen, like over in terms of money and politics and corporate power, but also in terms of the way that those things relate to capitalism and white supremacy and all of the various fronts of struggle that we're all working on. And I still believe after all this time that corporate power and corporate constitutional rights are really at the bottom of so many of the struggles that we're in. And so for me personally, I moved to Amend because I like to be efficient. And I think that digging at the roots of the problem is somebody has to do that. And so while we have a million things we're doing in our communities and putting out small fires, literally and figuratively, we also have to be digging at the roots of what creates problems in the first place. I think systemically, and so that's why I'm here. And I just wanted to say thank you so much to everyone who's contributed. This year has been, I don't need to say this year's been hard, right? We know that. But, for us, we decided in the spring that we were going to kind of lay ourselves off and work as volunteers for a lot of the year, which is a really difficult decision to make. But I think it speaks to how important this work is, that we all decided to make that choice for our families and take on that risk. Because we knew that no one else is actually doing this work, right? There's a lot of people resisting, money in politics or what have you, but there's actually no one else doing work to abolish corporate constitutional rights. And so we have to do this work because no one else is doing it. And so I just really appreciate you if you've invested in that, especially this year, because it's been so difficult for so many people. I just want to say thank you. And I also want to say too that, like, you know, as Millie said, our average donation is so small that I just think it's really powerful seeing the numbers of people who are giving. It's not so much about the amount that you're giving, but like being able to, you know, there are tons of people who are giving like the very littlest, you know, amount that they have extra to this cause is really, really powerful. So the amount of donations we get really matters, and actually in some ways matters more than how much it is, because that's power in itself. So I just wanted to say thanks for, I know there's people who give, you know, $2 a month, and I'm like just so grateful for those people, especially because that's quite a gift. So thanks for that. And I just really feel lucky to be part of this community in such a really difficult year. So good to see all of you. And yeah, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Jessica. If you're just tuning in, dollars go a long way. Petition signatures go a long way. Word of mouth goes a really, really long way. So please, if you're watching this, share this with your friends. Take the opportunity, check out our website, share the petition. That's a really good tool that we have when we go to lobby our representatives to say, hey, this many people are demanding this. Really big change. So I encourage you to check that out. I also want to acknowledge, oh, there she is. Good. Shelly Williams, but very much important. And I'm going to give her the spotlight now. She, as you can see, is multitasking as usual with her young child. So we applaud you, and I turn it over to you.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Shelly Williams. I'm the operations coordinator, and I am a full-time single parent who works from home, which is not an unusual situation right now, but boy, it's tough. I have been with Move to Amend since 2015. When I was pregnant with my child, I was hired pregnant, and have been with these folks ever since, and obviously now very much like my family. And I can't imagine going through everything that's happening right now without these incredible people and having a higher purpose, and the, you know, emotional and mental health, the ways that we support each other beyond just, you know, backing each other up work-wise. So this is just an amazing organization, and, you know, we no one on our staff does not deeply believe in what we're doing. I've never worked in a place like that, like this, and I can't imagine going back to any kind of regular job after you know, working with these people and doing this kind of work. My kid is being sort of quiet right now, which I'm really grateful for. I was a little worried about this live stream that he would try to like overtake it. You might have seen him do so while I was on mute earlier with his beet snack mouth. It looked like he had blood coming out of his mouth. I don't know. This has been a really hard year for everyone, and you know, but for us being a 501c4 organization, it was especially scary because the kind of work that we do is lobbying work, but most of the organizations that are 501c4s are not necessarily doing good lobbying work. The vast majority are lobbying for pretty terrible things, so it wasn't necessarily bad that we weren't included in relief, that 501c4s were not included in the CARES Act relief bill, but it was very, you know, it hit us hard. A lot of our supporters are just regular working class people who give us a little bit of money every month, and we saw people have to pull back and tighten up, and then we, you know, laid ourselves off. And the uncertainty, especially after all we've invested into this, was really scary. On many levels, right? Even just the personal survival levels, all the way up to, you know, this is something, you know, we believe has to happen. And so the scariest thing for all of us on board and staff is for this organization to not continue doing what it's doing. We've come so far too, and so we really appreciate the way folks came through for us this year and made it so that we can continue and come out swinging in 2021 in this new Congress for House Joint Resolution 48. But again, we are 100% grassroots, and so it's always a delicate situation, right? And so we just hope more of you can step up and help us not only continue but grow and be more powerful in 2021. And that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to try to squeeze people in as they join. And, so next I'm going to turn it over to Tara to give us the rundown of our 2020 accomplishments.
Hey, everybody. I'm Tara Ingram, she, her. I'm in Sacramento, California, and I'm a board member. And it's neat to be on this. I feel like between Caitlin, Millie, and I, we're got a Mardi Gras-ish theme going on. And so let's see, accomplishments. So this is in this year, right? With pandemics. Oh, George, that hat. That's spectacular.
My birthday.
Pandemic year, with everything going on. And I read through these accomplishments and it is remarkable. And this is both at the national level and at the grassroots level. Put these things together to make these things happen. So I'll start with, in terms of Congress and the We the People Amendment, we met our 2020 goal of 75 co-sponsors for HJR 48, and we may exceed it by the end of the year. And then it pledged to amend, 2020 pledged to amend. 61 of the pledge signers went on to win their races. So pledge to amend is where a candidate who's running, pledges to support the We the People Amendment. So 61 of the pledge signers went on to win their races, and 8 of those are actually in the U.S. Congress and will be fighting for the We the People Amendment at the Congress level. In terms of grassroots, Toledo, Ohio passed a city council resolution. Troy, Ohio began a campaign for a city council resolution, all of these in support of the move to amend language and the We the People Amendment language. And then on local ballots in Ohio and 2 cities and counties in Wisconsin, they were, We the People Amendment language was on the ballot and they won by 80% in all 3 cases. And all those 3 victories were in cities and towns that otherwise went to Trump. So like Greg mentioned, transpartisan, we across the board, people agree that corporations should not be considered people and should not have constitutional rights. So with these wins, which, is huge credit to the local organizers in those towns, we are now at a total of 678 local and state resolutions and ballot initiatives that are in support of the 28th Amendment that would abolish corporate constitutional personhood and money is free speech. So along with that, 2020, we've got a list of new endorsing organizations, some good public education programs, like Imagining Real Democracy discussion series. These are all in schools, public schools. 3 of our states had state network conferences: Ohio, Minnesota, California. And we, of course, some barnstorming in Ohio, Florida, 2 places in California, a lot of good letter writing campaign. And really importantly, I want to stress letters and opinion pieces. We had a huge increase in those. And this is a really powerful tactic to spread awareness and educate people. And it's something that we can do in a pandemic year, even more, any year, but especially in this kind of year. And then to wrap it up, the PMA, the People's Movement Assembly that we held on Towards a People's Constitution, was a really significant success. Having it online in a lot of ways, we wondered how that would go, but actually it allowed people from across the country to participate who otherwise would not have been able to. And that started the ball rolling on that project. And just if anybody else has any other accomplishments from 2020 they'd like to throw in, otherwise I'll pass it back to you, Millie.
Can we thank some of the people who have been giving? Would that be a good thing to do right this minute? Because people have been giving.
Yes.
And it's really exciting. I haven't actually, I still have to scroll through and find some more. So in the last 15 minutes, and we've been at this for 30, so I think there's a few more. Want to thank Laura from Utah for your donation, and Judith from California for your donation, and Geneva from California for your donation, and Lorene. I didn't check where you were from, but thank you for your donation. And I need to catch up a little bit more, but I just wanted to thank those folks and remind everybody that if you give while we're doing this live stream, we'll enter you in a drawing to win one of our water bottles. Oops, water bottles, and also a t-shirt. So there'll be like 2 opportunities to win. And it's really not about that. That's just an extra thank you. Your donation will help us continue the work that we're doing. All the things that all the things that Tara read off, that we and our awesome grassroots volunteers from all over the country who, none of whom, well, some of us kind of do double duty and wear multiple hats in that capacity, but a lot of these folks are generally speaking, not really ones to jump up in front of the camera. And so they're doing this work without necessarily getting acknowledgement or, accolades, but there are many other people besides those of us who on the national team who basically treat this as if it is, at least a part-time job, if not a full-time job. And they have been doing that for years as volunteers in their local communities, building local Move to Amend chapters. And that's so important to us. Those of us who started Move to Amend, our roots are in doing grassroots organizing ourselves. And we wanted to do this. We wanted to continue to do that because this kind of change really happens from raising consciousness and doing education and helping people understand that there is a solution to this problem. It isn't just some big system that we can't intervene in. And all of that really happens in our communities because that's where we see the effects of corporate capitalism. And that's also where we have the power to build our movements. And so the fact that we're structured in this grassroots way is so critical and so strategically important. And it wouldn't be possible for us to do this without that. If we were just sucked into the Washington, D.C. vortex, we would not be as powerful and effective and systemic as we are because it would just suck us in. And so that's why these volunteers and these people out in, Alabama or Missouri or Florida or fill in the blank state, Alaska, are so important. And many of you are the ones who gave first today. So thank you for that. I'm going to pass it back over to Millie and then keep looking to make sure I didn't miss anybody who's already given.
Yeah, just to underline what you just said, Caitlin, we don't have paid lobbyists. Our organizers are the folks going to Washington, storming the halls, making meetings happen in their own districts. That is a really empowering thing when you've never been told in any sort of civics class that you can go and actually say something to your representative. So I think that's a huge yay for us and what we do. I want to turn it over to George Friday, founder and board member, to give us some of her history with us and her why she moves to amend.
Well, there's a number of whys. It's an honor to be with y'all. And it's such a treat to work with the people who are part of Move to Amend. Everyone faces that I'm seeing now, the people who are donating, our affiliate members who are really the muscle. We're the heart, some of us, and collectively we're the brain. But the muscle to go through those halls of Congress and Senate and stand toe-to-toe with staff and say, This is what is right, and you have to do that. So y'all are the first line of the people that make why I moved to amend. Most of the other motivations aren't as lofty or as or as idyllic. So, you know, they use the 14th Amendment to do that shit, right? So, I mean, I will say no more so that I don't cuss a lot. But that's pretty insulting to take and usurp the 14th Amendment to say, well, these human beings, no, they have no worth, they have no value. Let's just ignore them and give the entitled sense to corporations. And now the evolution of that is what we're dealing with now. And it's frightening. But when back in the day when Move to Amend was founded, it was actually a pretty hopeful time. It felt hopeful to me compared to now. I wasn't, didn't have the same, oh man, I don't know, I'm not going to get the right words. Ire, that's the right word. It's a nice short one, IRE. Ire for corporations that I have now. I was pretty upset about Ferguson v. Pelosi. I'm not pronouncing the P thing right. Which basically said that money is speech. I remember being in DC in this very, very serious meetings, as I went to a lot in my experience with Move to Amend. I've spent a lot of time in the rooms with white men in suits, and I'm the only woman there and the only person of color, or one of few. It's hilarious. And they're all at very lofty places. Harvard was fun. So in DC, at some meeting where someone we know who thinks about this stuff, whose name is John someone, was there. I'm not remembering his last name because at the moment he's not that important to me. But he did calm me down, John Bonifaz. All right. So when they were talking about this, as if, because this was in the 80s, y'all, this is the 80s at this meeting, and the ruling was like in 70 something. So it had gone on all this time that in the US, people had accepted that money equals speech, not thinking about what are the consequences if you don't have any damn money? And what does that mean for the scores of people who will never have the kind of financial means to make the changes that somebody with tons of money can do? It's beyond infuriating. And the fact that the people in that meeting weren't as incensed as I was made me think, what's happening? I mean, are we on the same planet? So we are on the same planet, and our voices make sense. Our voices have to be loud, collective, consistent, and unyielding to demand that corporations do not have the rights of human beings, and money is not used as a weapon to oppress us and take away our rights. All right, guess what you get, Millie Harmon. Thank y'all for giving donations.
George. I mean, we appreciate you. We got to feel the rage right now. And more people are feeling the rage, and more people are connecting that back to corporate personhood and money influencing, the whole political spectrum of our country. Mm-hmm. So, yes.
So do not internalize the rage. It's not yours. Externalize it into action, right? Put together a meeting or a webinar. Get people together in a large public square safely and protest. The anniversary of the evil ruling is coming up in January. So you can acknowledge that in a number of ways that make it clear that you are not cool with it. You could electrocute a corporation. Death penalty for corporations. Never would I say death penalty for any being other than a corporation. I would love to give the chair to a corporation in a park, right?
It's one of the few forms of death penalties that actually benefit the people that actually work in the lower ranks of the corporation, as the distribution of corporations ends up distributing the assets amongst the people that comprised it.
That'd be sweet.
Right?
What if you do a death to the corporation on the ruins of where they took down some kind of Confederate statues and shit? It's a thought. Anyway, the main thing is don't internalize your rage. Feed it, but use it as energy to make change. It's not energy to suck up your love and your joy, because we need our love and our joy. As Shelly is
reminder, use our rage to mobilize. I really appreciate that. I want to turn it over for a second to Caitlin Saposi-Belknap, and then I'm going to introduce Keon Bliss.
Okay, I just want to thank a couple more people. I want to thank Julie in Alaska and Jane in Santa Cruz, California, and Sally in Minnesota for giving in the last couple of minutes. Really appreciate it. And the link is going at the bottom. Please make a donation if you haven't yet. And if you already have, then thank you if you did it earlier this week. If you're in a position to maybe give a few more bucks, we would appreciate that. We have to raise about $10,000 between now and the end of the day tomorrow. Or if you've already given all that you can, then please share this with your friends and ask them to join you. Share this live stream right now so that they can come on in and learn a little bit more about Move to Amend, but also tell them why you support Move to Amend and why you think that they should as well. Back to you, Millie.
Thanks, Caitlin. And remember, if you donate during our live stream, you're entered into a raffle for a water bottle and a t-shirt. And we are currently doing a donor match. So anything you donate will be matched up to $10,000. So, hey, what a bonus. I'm now going to turn it over to Keon Bliss, our national director, introduce himself, his history with Move to Amend, why he does it. And I'd really love to hear about how you use this work to sort of bolster the analysis on the ground, because you have done a lot of local organizing in the last few years.
Yeah, thanks, Millie. And hi, everyone who's joining us from home. I've been involved with Move to Amend for going on 8 years. Started off as an intern with Move to Amend back in the fall of 2013. Spent some time on our board of directors, and then before moving out to California to become a full-time staff member, and eventually the grassroots director for Move to Amend. And one of the things that has kept me involved and why I am inspired by this movement is because it's one of the few out there, the few coalitions that really centralizes centralizes how corporate power is directly exacerbating and also responsible for the systems of oppression as they exist along lines of race, gender, and class. Among other arbitrary social divides. From the beginning, we live in a country that has always put property and profit above human rights and well-being. And even after the first 10 amendments were passed in the early years, because the Constitution itself failed to define who is a person worthy of its protection, it ultimately only applied those paltry few human rights only applied to a tiny sliver of the American population at the time, roughly 5 to 8% of the population that was white, male, over the age of 21, and of course owned property. And that's literally more than 90% of the U.S. population, particularly women, Black and Indigenous people of color, and even poor non-landowning white people have had to fight, suffer, and die just to get basic recognition for their humanity. And even when we did ultimately start recognizing our people's humanity, and with most notable amendments like the 14th Amendment, the courts of the United States, still bound by that original property rights document, ultimately sided with corporations and their wealthy executives to insert their state-created organizations, the corporation, into the Constitution by declaring that corporation is a person worthy of equal protection under the law and due process under the 14th Amendment. So from this, it literally has intersected with every struggle for justice that is happening today. If you're fighting for school as a human right or Medicare for all, you have to compete and struggle against the barrier that is set up by big multinational corporations, the pharmaceutical industry, in the private school charter industry, and the textbook industry even, that are ultimately fighting against making education a human right, as well as healthcare as a human right. If you're fighting for the police accountability and to dismantle white supremacy, for racial justice, you are going against a well-established for-profit industry that depends upon militarized police to protect their property and profits above human rights and human lives even. So a lot of that you can see at the local level, including within the COVID response, where the vast majority of funds, the trillions of dollars that we've already put to stimulate our economy, continues to go to mostly large multinational businesses, while paying a little bit of lip service to the small, locally owned mom and pop shops that really bolster up our economy, more so than these big multinationals. And it's literally costing people their lives as well, where we have millions of people that are suffering just to keep the roofs over their head. Not just the roofs, but also keeping food on the table. And we see this here in places like Sacramento, where I call home, where there are still tens of thousands of families that are living day to day under lockdown conditions, not being able to continue, to do their regular work and make income, while getting virtually no support from local city or county governments. And the support that they do get, there are endless bureaucratic hurdles, and oftentimes go to the people that already have the most protections in place. There are many people face evictions because there have been no standing moratoriums against rent payments or unjust evictions and such have been extended beyond the end of this month. And and that's going to continue on well past 2021. This isn't a crisis that that's just going to disappear overnight once enough people get the vaccine, hopefully by the end of summer 2021. It's going to continue. We're going to feel these reverberations for years. And a lot of it didn't have to happen. I have family right now that is suffering in a hospital because we continue to prioritize businesses and the economy over basic human needs, which include food, water, and shelter, as well as personal protective equipment, which many municipalities and local governments and state governments even continue to struggle over, just even requiring the most basic of mandates just to protect the common health and well-being of the community as a whole. We still continue to prioritize this profit, and that's largely because we have these corporate oligarchs and these entities that are dominating the public discourse and continuing to focus in on this idea that by giving as much money as we can to the wealthy owning class and prioritizing their needs, all of that's going to trickle down. If we didn't have corporations that had the same human rights as we the people, and if their money was not considered a form of protected political speech, we could actually assert our rights as a community and as flesh and blood human beings better than these incorporated entities created by state law. And until we actually get that, until we make it clear that constitutional rights belong to natural persons, not corporations, we will continue to be at the mercy of these multinational billionaires and their corporate vehicles who continue to dominate the wealth of resources as well as controlling the public discourse. So if there is a cause, if there, whatever your number one issue is, I always say, is if it's whether it's healthcare for all, and ending and dismantling white supremacy and and creating alternative systems for law enforcement and such, really move to amend your number two, because if we can get this amendment passed, the We the People amendment, we can actually level the playing field so that all of our struggles for justice and human rights and well-being can actually can make headway, and we can actually have a real conversation about what does a people-centered democracy look like, and what values and principles should be in place to make sure this is we have a government of, by, and for the people, flesh and blood people.
Thank you so much, Keon. I want to turn it back over to Caitlin really fast so she can give us some exciting donor updates.
Caitlin, you're muted.
Still muted.
Okay, sorry. I thought that Alfonso unmuted me, but I guess I muted myself back. Okay, so what I was saying is thank you so much to Margie from Nevada City, California, and also, oops, I lost track of it there. Oh, Shanice from, I think she was in Dayton, Ohio. And I just want to point out, I went through to double check. Every single person who has donated in these last 53 minutes has been a woman. So how about some men out there who are tuning in to make a donation? Can you please match the ladies? The ladies are pulling all the weight right now. So get in on it. We've only got, we might go for a little bit longer than an hour, right, Millie? We've got more people to go. And so it's not a hard and fast hour, but
don't procrastinate. Get on it.
We might close out and use a water bottle or the opportunity to get a t-shirt. So don't miss it. And also all my memories of having a public radio show and doing the pledge drive are coming back to me. It's like, this is the best time to give. You can give tomorrow, but why would you want to do that? Give right now when we can shout you out on the air and you can be part of this fun afternoon and community effort. So I want to see some men on this board. I will pass it over to Millie.
It's like the old telephones with the wires for props. So fun.
Right.
My poor son will never even know what that is. He's 3. So I want to welcome to the stage Jenny Spanos, a co-coordinator for the Florida affiliate, as well as our very, very appreciated intern, to introduce herself, explain a little bit more why she moves to amend. And then after that, we're going to open it up for some questions. So stay tuned.
Hi, thank you, Millie. Hi, everybody. It's an honor to be here. I've been involved with Move to Amend on the local level at different affiliates as I've bounced across the country. But I'm back in Florida, and we're working to build our state coordinating efforts. I came to Move to Amend was a process, after covering the oil spill in Florida and seeing the stranglehold that corporations have over our country, and then starting to learn and understand that that's directly tied to corporate constitutional rights and corporate personhood. That's why I moved to Amend. It whacks at the root, like Jessica says. It gets to the problems of so many of our issues, and I am just blessed to be doing this work with y'all. And if you have it, please give. If not, sign the petition. Sign up to volunteer. Whatever it takes, we have to get this done. The We the People Amendment of, by, and for the people. Thanks for
Jenny and I went to our first Move to Amend affiliate meeting in 2013 in Northern California. So cheers, Jenny. Thanks for dragging me along. I next want to open it up for questions. Submit by comment. You have all of us, and I just invite you all to grab a question as you will, as they come in.
In the meantime, am I still on mute? No, I'm not. Okay, I can share a couple more folks. Okay, so Alfonso rose to the occasion. Alfonso, who didn't get to say anything yet, our communications, online communications, awesome guru, who I think you're donating the amount that you're going to save for getting your glasses fixed instead of having to replace them, which is amazing. Is there anything you want to say, Alfonso? There's a couple more people to thank too that can go after you, but
yeah, please introduce yourself, Alfonso, and everything that you see happening, he's doing. So yay!
Thanks everyone. Yeah, so like you said, I'm the online communications coordinator, so pretty much the face behind the social media and the weekly making sense, as well as the live report, which is I would say one of my favorite parts to do, to gather all the news and write the script for Kaylin to read. Feel like I'm fulfilling my career, which is creative writer. So I feel that I'm utilizing those skills. I joined Mutuament back in 2018. I wanted to contribute to make something meaningful, and I found this amazing group that was trying to fix what I think is the number one issue. As an environmentalist, I care deeply about fighting climate change, but most of the solutions out there are just barely touching the surface. And I think that Mutuament is really aiming at the root cause of the problem, which is money in politics and corporate personhood rights. So I joined as an intern back then, and I've been with them ever since. They're my second family. And yeah, of course, I wish I had more to share. This is, I assure you all, the best investment. You want to see it like that, an investment in democracy. So I would encourage everyone out there, if you can, $5, $10, whatever you can spare. I assure you, we are scrappy but mighty, so we would make even $1 worth. So thank you all. Pass.
I've got a bunch more people to thank. So let's see.
Which
First, go ahead.
Just wanted to say that a big shout out to all of the volunteers who are the actual muscle here. Alfonso is right. We stretch dollars, but our blood is volunteer. So we really thank you. This organization is a mighty engine and runs on very, very little, because people believe deeply that this is a block to many of the issues that we need to overcome right now. And with that, Kiana is going to answer a question, and then we're going to go for more exciting trickle-in donations.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So we got a question from Tom Over asking, what city, state, and federal officials support Move to Amend? What local people in business and academia are supporting Move to Amend? So feel free to chime in here, y'all, but I can say that, off the cuff, we have right now, we're going into 2021 with 75 members of the House of Representatives who have put their signature and their name to House Joint Resolution 48, the We the People Amendment. And that's grown considerably since it was first introduced back in, I believe it was the fall of 2013, where we started off with just 3 co-sponsors. We have grown, that was, even then, it was earlier, the amendment was introduced way earlier than we had anticipated. And we continue to grow by leaps and bounds. Our end of the year goal this year was 75 House co-sponsors, and we have done so already, and we've consistently broken our goal in the House every single year. So we definitely know that there is support, and we were also the first amendment proposal on this issue that received bipartisan support, where we got our first Republican co-sponsor, the late Walter Jones of North Carolina's District 3. He passed away, unfortunately, early last year when the amendment was first introduced. One of the last things that we had heard from him in his office was that he would continue to support the We the People amendment however long he could. And we sincerely miss his support, but we know his legacy lives on, and it's continuing to trickle down into the state level governments. Here in Sacramento City, we actually have one of our newest city council members who just won their election this year. Katie Valenzuela is a supporter of the We the People amendment and a pledge signer, committing to use the power of her office at the local level to support Move to Amend and the We the People amendment. So we really want to give thanks to folks like Katie at the local level, but we also have folks at the state level, like here in California, there's Mike McGuire, who's been a long-time supporter and pledge signer for Move to Amend as well. And then we even, in terms of local people in business and academia, one of our long-time endorsing organizations, the American Independent Business Alliance, is an endorser of Move to Amend. But we also have, not just in business, but also local labor that has supported us, including the American Federation of Teachers, as well as I'm blanking on the name at the moment, but it's the union representing federal government workers. If I'm not mistaken, feel free to correct me.
And there are a bunch of local unions, and Keon, there's no way you can list them all. I mean, the reality is hundreds of organizations have supported Move to Amend. So if you go to movetoamend.org / I think it's organizations, you can see the list of all the organizations, including a bunch of unions, a bunch of community groups, national groups, along the lines of what he was saying. I posted the link to where you can go to see all the co-sponsors as well. And so it's too many to list, and it's growing all the time. And that's actually also a way that folks can support the effort by sharing it with any organizations that you're part of and asking them to sign on as well. And, you know, our Law and Research Committee is in the process right now of reaching out to a number of constitutional lawyers, which we've been doing for quite a while. That one is a little bit harder to bring the most conservative element of the legal profession, which is arguably one of the most conservative professions there are as far as the law, but bring them along. And so we'll have some, I think, exciting new supporters to announce in 2021 in that department. I want to thank these people, though, which is why I jumped in. Sorry, Keon, to grab the mic away from you, because there's a whole bunch of folks who responded, and there are some men. Thank you for that, besides Alfonso. So Jesse from Montebello, I didn't put down what state, so sorry. Cheryl from Spokane, Washington. Kathy from Salem, Massachusetts. Pam from Glen Carbon, Illinois. Bob from San Jose. Sarah from Berkeley. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah just gave for the very first time. Want to acknowledge that. A lot of folks are giving who have been giving for a long time. A lot of volunteers in those names that I just listed, people who are also doing the work with their time, like Kathy and Bob and Pam. So thank you so much to everybody who is donating. And we still have a little bit of time left to be part of this effort and to get in on the raffle and to just feel really good about your day. So go to movetoamend.org. You can donate through the link on the site. And we've also posted the link here a bunch of times, and we're still happy to take your questions. So if you have any more questions from anyone on this Brady Bunch squares, then let us know and we'll answer them before we tune out. But
Can I say something real quick?
What you can do right now is make a donation before you sign off. Go ahead, Greg.
Certainly the people who have helped us from day one in this, magnanimous effort are volunteers. But another way to identify are leaders. Those of you who have been involved in any way, shape, or form in supporting Move to Mend are citizen leaders. Whether it's doing the lobbying, whether it's trying to garner organizational support, whether it's doing grassroots education, getting people on the other side of this learning curve, you are leaders in this movement. And so, yes, being a volunteer is one way to self-identify, but my goodness, you're so much more than that. And so thank you for being a leader where you are and in consort with all of us together where we are in doing what we can, because we couldn't do what we're doing without you taking leadership in a variety of ways where you are. So thank you.
Thanks, Jesse from Montebello, California. Sorry about that. It looks like Jim wants to hear about a people's constitution, and Jessica would probably be the best person to answer that.
I'd love to. Thanks for asking. And thank you so much for everyone giving. This is really exciting. It's fun to have it be in real time. So People's Constitution, and you can visit the website and read more about this as I talk if you want, is peoplesconstitution.us. It's a project that has been emerging for a long time with some of us in this deep democracy work. And it's an effort to educate and agitate and organize towards reimagining the United States Constitution. We recognize that, as we've said a million times here, that the roots of so many of the problems we're facing are systemic, and we see that many of those things are actually rooted in the Constitution. And so we think a lot about taking a movement-based approach to constitutional renewal and figuring out how we can democratize the U.S. Constitution fundamentally. And so this is right now it's a website, it's a space, but it's also an effort that you'll see a lot more of in 2020 of us learning about how people in other places have a very natural constitutional renewal process. And what would it be like to imagine having a constitution that worked for people and planet and not just, property and corporations. And so I really invite you in to learn more about that. We, like Tara said earlier, this year we had a People's Movement Assembly, which is a gathering of, we had a couple hundred people there virtually having this 2-day long, rich discussion about a people's constitution. So there's a lot of energy here. We're really excited about this work, and I hope that you'll check that out. And stay tuned, because 2021 is really the year where we're building this into responding, I think, to a lot of the movement energy that's happening right now in so many ways. So it's a really exciting place to be.
Couple more people to thank in the last couple minutes. Keon, thank you for making a donation. You can see the people who get caught up in it, because Keon already gives a monthly donation too, which a lot of us do. I think most of us do, right? And so thanks for the extra. And then also Russell from Eureka. I just want to give you a shout out. So Russell was somebody who actually hosted an intern of Democracy Unlimited back before Move to Amend even existed. In his house, went back when we used to do it like that, and just gave a donation. So thanks, Russell. Good to see you here. And Millie also asked me to remind everybody that you can give a donation right now through the website. If you need that donation to be tax deductible, we actually can do that as well. Move to Amend is a 501c4, so donations to Move to Amend are not tax deductible. However, if you make the donation through Democracy Unlimited and allocate it for the Move to Amend Education Fund, then your donation can be tax deductible, and then we will use it for our educational work rather than our lobbying work. And a lot of the work that we do is educational. So for example, the People's Constitution work, that's not lobbying Congress. And so if it would help you to give a little bit more, then to have it tax deductible, then please think about that. Sometimes what people do is a match. They'll do, you know, half of the donation for the end of the year to move to amend, and that's not tax deductible, and then another donation on top of that to the education fund. So whatever works for you, that's definitely an option. If you're somebody that's going to get $600 that you don't need because you're fully employed right now, that's something to think about. I hope that you will give, you know, a portion of that to people in your community who are trying to put food on the table or keep their roof over their head, and then a portion of it to systemic work like Move to Amend, that is trying to change our whole world so that we are not in the position that we're in now, where corporations are who our government is protecting instead of the people. And then there's also some other ways that you can give too that are a little bit more complicated. And so you would need to contact us to do this. But if it would make the difference in terms of your ability to give or your ability to give a little bit more, want folks to know that you can give through your IRA, you can give through, you can make a stock donation. These are all donations to the 501c3 work that we do. You can put Move to Amend in your will. And we actually just got a donation the other day from a family who were fulfilling a bequest from a Move to Amend supporter who passed away and who had us in his will. And so part of what they wanted their state to go to is to support Move to Amend. Now, that might make you think like, oh, you know, thousands of dollars. It was a $1,000 donation. For us, that's big and so significant. And it's so meaningful to us that somebody, as you know, they were thinking about how they want their legacy and their values to live on in the world after they're gone from it, supported Move to Amend and trusted in us that we'll still be here whenever that moment came, and we'll still be doing the work. And so thank you so much for everybody who has done that, put Move to Amend in their will. And I know there are some of you out there who have. And then you also can be a monthly donor. So a lot of you who are giving right now are giving, you know, and thinking about it at the end of the year. But really what makes us sustainable and able to keep the lights on, metaphorically, is, you know, keep the computers on, maybe is a better way to say it, is when you give monthly. And for a lot of people, being able to, making a monthly donation means that you can give a little bit more. So, you know, maybe you can't give us $120 right now, but you could give us $10 a month. And you could afford that, you could build it into your budget, and that makes a huge difference. It's money that we know that we can count on and rely on. So as we're thinking about what we're going to have to be able to allocate to our projects and our work, whether that's, you know, people's salaries or, you know, paying for basic necessities like our website and our telephone service and things like that, or if we're ever able to travel again, going to invest in being able to support other communities or go to Washington, D.C., all of that. When we have the money every month and we know that we can count on it, it's huge. So we did have a goal of having 28 new donors come on in the month of December for next year. And I think we're at about, you know, 5 or 6, maybe 7. So we still have a ways to go on bringing in those monthly donors. And if Move to Amend is something that you think is important every single day, then it would be awesome if you can make a donation to support us doing this work every single day. I'll pass it back to Millie.
Thank you, Caitlin. And just to say, you know, we're organizers first. We are not fundraisers. We don't want to spend all year fundraising. We want to do the work. We want to work side by side with the people on the ground doing the work. And that is a huge way that sustainers can help us out, is that we can predict what we have and plan and strategize with that in mind. Also to say, really, really underline here, Move to Amend takes contributions in all of their forms. Your time, your energy, the going out on a limb and talking to the person behind you 6 feet away in the grocery store about a really important thing that people need to, you know, accomplish some things right now. These are the gems. These are really what helps spread a movement. So we welcome and remind you, keep up the chit chat for Move to Amend. If you have volunteer hours that you can contribute, get a hold of us. You can sign up on our website. Every thing matters to keeping us driving forward into 2021. And for a little teaser of what we will be rolling out next year, you did hear about the People's Movement Assembly and our work sort of growing and building our new People's Constitution project. We also have the goal to get 100 co-sponsors in the House, get HJR reintroduced with at least 100 co-sponsors. We did 75 this year. We can do that if we really apply the pressure that we need. And then another goal is to get a companion bill to HJR 48, our We the People Amendment, introduced into the Senate with 5 initial co-sponsors. So again, this is another call to action. Please be putting pressure on your representatives, your senators. These people have been put in place by us to represent us. Let's hold their feet to the fire. And with that, I'm going to thank you. I'm going to welcome anybody else on board and staff to say something, and then we're going to do our raffle and close this up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted to add on to what Jessica was talking about, about this need for really of renewing the Constitution, really looking at what makes a democracy people-centered. And one of the reasons that I alluded to before about why I got involved in Move to Amend was because I consider the goal of ending corporate constitutional rights and money as protected speech with the We the People Amendment to be a crucial first step towards having that conversation, leveling the playing field for all justice movements and creating lasting systemic change here in the United States. Imagine once the We the People Amendment is adopted in the Constitution, what we could also change and add to that, build upon that momentum. One of my personal goals is that we introduce new bills of rights. What if workers and laborers had the right to freely choose where they were, what meaningful employment comes to them? What if the basic protections that workers demand and should and deserve are actually enshrined within the constitutional law, such as paid sick leave, paid parental leave, safety within the work environment from occupational hazards as best as possible, among other things, and just the basic right to recreation and leisure from a day's labor that so many of us have been consistently denied, literally from the beginning of this country. What if we had rights to education enshrined into the Constitution itself, not just for the right to go to school, but for the freedom to actually pursue a full and healthy development of the human personality? What if we had rights to privacy, rights of nature included within the Constitution? These are the things that have been in my mind since before I joined Move to Amend, and this is the vision that I have going forward. If once we can pass the We the People Amendment, of actually having that conversation of what does a constitution look like, where human beings and the planet are first and foremost, not just corporate commercial rights and property interests.
Thank you so much, Keon. And truly, envisionment is such an important piece of our work. We are all so sick and tired of running away from the things that we don't want. So to envision the We the People passing is to envision a future that makes everything else so much more possible. And I'm going to turn it over to Caitlin to close us out, announce the raffle winners, and once again, just thank you all so much for being here with us today and over the past 10 years in this movement.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you everybody who gave, and thank you to POCLAD, the Program on Corporations, Law and Democracy, which is one of our coalition partners, for the fact that every single donation that came in today and through the end of the year, it was matched. So all of you who gave, actually what we got is double that, thanks to POCLAD. So want to give them a shout out for that. And then obviously all of the pioneering work that POCLAD did to make this movement possible in the first place. So the winners are Sarah Sato for the water bottle and Cheryl McDaniel for the t-shirt. And you can claim your prize by sending us a direct message or a private message through whichever platform you're tuned in here on, and let us know your address. And then Cheryl, just let us know what size t-shirt you want, and we will send them along to you. We probably won't get the water bottle out until next week, but the t-shirt we might be able to get in the works because it gets made on demand. So thanks again, everybody, for being here and for supporting Move to Amend. Thank you to all our volunteers. Thank you to all of our donors and supporters. Remember that if you don't have money to give, you can still support Move to Amend by signing up to get involved in 2021. You can go to movetoamend.org/volunteer to do that, or sharing the petition with your friends and making sure that you sign it yourself. And just want to give props and shout out to Millie for suggesting that we do this. I think that we now have a New Year, end of the year tradition, and maybe we'll do this a couple more times in 2021 as well, since we won't be able to come to your community until God knows when. So we'll be on your computer as much as possible. I think that's it, unless there's anything else anybody has to add. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Bye.
Happy New Year, everyone. Safe and wonderful
Keep it
holidays.
healthy.
The answer is move to amend. The answer, my friend, is move to amend.